Hey, I'm with the guys from Keymaster Games, and you guys have some pretty exciting news with the latest Kickstarter, Campy Creatures, hitting just yesterday.
Yeah,
About
That's right.
it's been crazy. We've been working super hard over the past, obviously long time, but the past week especially, of getting everything ready for the campaign, and it's just this like nerve-wracking time of when you're pressing that launch button for it to happen. And it's been a whirlwind since then too, of just the response from people has been awesome.
So tell us a little about Keymaster Games and where this came about, how you guys kind of got started developing games, and why it's a passion of yours.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I'll try to make the story real short because it spans a lot of years. Basically, I started Keymaster Games about almost 3 years ago. Games has always been a part of my life, just like most of us gamers. We play games since we were kids and stuff like that, but it wasn't really a hobby or passion. There was a defining moment in my life where I decided that was really something I wanted to make more a part of my life, and that was when I had my third open heart surgery. That was about 3.5 years ago. I was born with a bad ticker, something I've lived with. Had surgery when I was born, had another surgery in high school, just something I got used to, like every 10 or so years I'd have surgery. So I had been working as a designer and illustrator in the commercial market for print media type stuff and conventions and stuff like that. And I found out, hey, kind of left field, I needed to have surgery sooner than I thought. And I was like, and so just that kind of life moment of like, man, what, I want to do something like awesome, you know? And so leading up, there's about a 6-month period leading up to surgery where you're just waiting for prep work and stuff like that. And I just started buying games. My wife said I kind of went in like a board game buying depression. And who's going to not play games with me at that point was the real, you know, like if I'm like, let's play this game and they've never heard of it.
They can't say no.
You can't say no to that. And I totally knew it. So I was buying games left and right, playing lots of games. And I'd say that's where the bug hit. I was like, hey, these are great games. This is great artwork. I think I can do the artwork for this stuff. And I think with everyone playing games, it's like, man, I really wish this game did this instead of, you know, move this way or that. And so I started tweaking stuff like that and just started making little prototypes of stuff. And that's where it started. And about that time is when I met Mattox, and he kind of came into the story at that point. So I'll let you.
Yeah, I lived out in Seattle for a few years after graduating from the University of Georgia. We're in Athens here. And that has a great game culture, and that was a place where like was my gateway into more games for sure. As I was playing, they have some great game cafes and things like that out there. And so as I moved back though, one of my friends from Seattle was like, hey, the Keys live in Athens now. We used to know them from Lexington. You need to hang out with them. And so we're like, okay, that'd be awesome. And like literally I know like the first day I hung out with Kyle was like the first day that he could actually hang out from his open heart surgery.
Like my first day out of the house.
People were driving him around and I was like, oh, this is, you know. But yeah, so the more we hung out, we finally got to, you know, like, oh, you like board games? Me too. And seeing Kyle had like made a game at that point. And so I was like, what? You created a game? This is so cool. And it just like totally opened my mind to this whole new world of like people make games. Of course people make games, but it just like not people that I know, I guess. And now that it was someone that I knew, it was like gave me the bug also. And so I started working on a few games myself. Just being a designer too, you have this like, it's kind of cool marrying both worlds of like mechanics with also the look of the game and how it can all come together. So I feel like when I'm thinking about games, I'm thinking in both realms of things. But yeah, so fast forward, first game I made was terrible. It wasn't good at all. And then had to get that out of the way. Second game was more workable, I guess would be a better way to put it. And that was Control. But it started off, it's a lot smaller game, a lot easier to iterate and quick, rapid prototype. And so Kyle and I were working on that together. And he had that idea of starting a game publishing company and was wanting to kickstart a game. And we were like, man, this would be the best one to probably start with just because like it's smaller. you can learn a lot of the hard lessons on a product that doesn't cost you a ton of money. And the buy-in from people is a lot less. Like if we were to introduce a huge like $50 game at first, like to get introduce Keymaster Games to people, that's a whole big barrier to entry, and we like have to have something amazing or just like years. Whereas we kind of stepped into the industry, not. I think we could have done a lot better jobs of certain things of just getting to know people online and different reviewers and gotten more connections there. But we just kind of said we're just going to do it and see what happens. And
Let's
so
just jump in.
We did it the hard way, but it's been people have been so gracious and supportive, and it's been really cool to make those connections now and whatnot.
So let's talk about Control for a second. Control was kind of a surprise for me. One of my coworkers actually brought it in and was like, dude, you got to check out this game. You really need to see it. And we took it home. We went to my in-laws' house for Thanksgiving, and we spent probably all of Thanksgiving playing Control.
That's so
that
good.
game is amazing. So all is beautiful. It's minimalist. I love it. And there's so many ways that you can play that game and go about. I love the team aspect of it if you're playing 4 players. Tell us a little about Control and kind of how that led to bringing Campy Creatures to life.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about mechanics of Control and where that came from, or?
Yeah, Mattox is basically, when we talk about Control, Mattox is basically the designer when it comes to mechanics, how the game developed, where he got the idea, and then I handled a lot of the art direction, and then I did the actual illustrations for it. So we kind of, when we talk about Control, we just like, you want to talk to Max about mechanics? You want to talk about me? So I'll let you go about.
Yeah, well, I guess mechanics. Love playing card games, spades, hearts, like that sort of stuff is just like my jazz, and counting cards and all that good stuff as those games can kind of play out. And so I came across this game that was based off of playing card games. Sorry, we're about to have a train come by here too. We work by a train depot, just as a heads up. If there's a horn, hopefully it's not too loud.
They have to blow it, so it's
yeah. Yeah, so playing card games in this game called Cuddle, which is this uses a playing card deck but has abilities assigned to each card. You have to memorize those abilities and what they do, and it's kind of hard to memorize, or you need a cheat sheet in front of you. But some people were like, oh, it came out and it was first talked about in probably the 60s or 70s. And so some people might see it we're like, this could have been a precursor to Magic, where, Richard Garfield might have heard of this or maybe got some inspiration from here. No one knows, but it was just cool to come across this game. And so that was where it was like, okay, this is a playing card game, but it'd be really hard to introduce this to someone with this super steep learning curve of memorizing all the abilities and whatnot. And I really like certain things in the way that it was set up, but the balance of the game and certain issues I had with it, where I was like, maybe I can just start tweaking and see where we can go from here. And so as a new designer coming into things, it was helpful to have a framework. And I guess my first game that I was making, I didn't really have this framework that I was building things upon or mechanics to pull from or whatnot. And so obviously I played, CCGs like Magic, or grew up playing Pokemon and that sort of stuff. And so had somewhat of a framework building upon those sort of things. And so that game was birthed out of Cuddle, which made it a lot easier starting place, but more trying to refine that game into a much more easier, approachable game. That sort of realm of things. Because as a lot of Magic players are it takes 2 hours to teach someone how to play, and it's really hard to get family members to play. And so that was the whole goal of can we have this combative card game, but a lot quicker to jump into. And there's a bunch that are great out there too. And Control, I think, would just fall into the lightest of the niche probably.
Well, it's definitely a game that we recommend at One Board Family. It's a beautiful game to play, and just the pieces, everything that came from that Kickstarter was just so well done.
Well, thank you.
I'm in awe of those metal coins. It's every time you earn one of those metal coins, I just sit there. I'm like, man, this is good. Feels nice.
I'll put the metal coins all on Max. That was his idea, and I was like, I don't know if we can do metal coins. And Max was like, we must have the metal coins. And I was like, all right, I'm with you, man. Let's do it. And then our backers were super thankful for them just rallying behind it. and really getting that stretch goal was amazing. So.
And that was kind of an interesting time too, that whole process of kickstarting a game and getting all this great feedback from people. And I think we really found ourselves, or what Keymaster could be during that time. And I think it was because of the people who came in and backed us and believed in us that, you know, we were able to raise that money and put it all towards the quality components that are a part of that game. And as designers, we of course want things to be quality, but it's sometimes hard if you don't have the money behind it to make that a thing. And I think that that more and more we're like, I think that's Keymaster's thing of like, we want to have these like really high quality games that are at a affordable price, but maybe not like bottom of the barrel, I guess. And so that's what, I don't know, just kind of finding ourselves during that time as people believed in us. So it was, we're glad to hear that it feels that way for you.
Yeah. And so speaking about quality, I think that the thing that people are blown away by with your new game is the artwork. The artwork has this classic feel, but it has this amazing detail to it that you just get sucked into. I was able to share the link for Campy Creatures to a couple of people in board game, just little board game groups on Facebook. And immediately everybody was like, I'm buying this because of the art. I don't even care how it plays. This looks amazing. I've got to have it. A little about the art direction for Campy Creatures and how you guys got to where you are.
Yeah.
For me, I always wanted to do like a creature game. This was like before even Control happened. And as I type design, I make fonts for a living. It's a weird thing. I didn't know that people did that for a living. So, but some of the things I love are the type on posters from those old pulp era style, you know, horror movie posters, or just, just the campiness that was found there. And so like, I found myself so attracted to that. And as we, you know, started discussing, we knew the theme that we wanted to go with. And we were like, Kyle, do you want to do this? Because he does a lot of the illustrations. I could do the type on this. But then we were like, man, we have, as we were building this company, it's just like time-wise, where we need to allot our time. We were like, maybe this would be better spent hiring someone out, an artist, to do this. And I was like, wildest dreams wise, I was like, Kyle, Josh Emmerich, this dude kills it, the artist too.
That conversation was like, we always originally planned that I was just going to illustrate it, being designers, and with my illustration background, it's just like, why wouldn't we do this in-house as a small company, just starting? Like, that seems like the logical startup thing to do. But Mattox went down that road of, what if we got this guy to do it? And I know it was one of Mattox's, like, just loved his work, and he showed it to me. And really at that point I was like, yeah, you know, he lives in this world already. Like, he uses the same brushes that I would use, and he uses probably a similar work method and creative process. And so for us to just look at his work and we're like, you know what? No, this is right. Like, we should totally get him to do it. And we think it's gonna be awesome. So.
And one of the things I love is like, he had never done any board game stuff before. And I think there are definitely certain styles in the board game world that are like, that's an awesome style. And I love that. But I think being able to like go to someone who isn't couched in that culture and can make something completely unexpected, but still beautiful and work within the medium, we were really stoked on. And so that's kind of like, I feel like the kind of sticking point, like you're talking about, of like, I want people to see this game and just be like, it looks so good that I want to get it. And then hopefully they'll come to play it and be like, oh, it plays great too, that I keep wanting to play it, and it all fits so well together. But I mean, that was one of the things in this Kickstarter that, like, timeline wise, we wanted to get it out, and we could have done, you know, gotten review copies out, you know, and done all this other stuff ahead of time, as we were tweaking the game to the final phase that it is. But we were like, we just really want to get it out, and we think that the art will be a big pushing point. We'll give the print and play away for free and hopefully get a lot of traction that way, and hopefully get some reviews during the campaign as it goes on. As that was something we didn't launch with, but we said, because we're trying to have this game ready for Gen Con is basically the big thing. And so timeline wise, we wanted to get it on Kickstarter by this time. And so we weighed the pros and cons. We're like, we think the art is the bigger selling point where people will dive in there. And I think you get a different crowd sometimes too, where designers or just people who are like, this looks cool, and maybe I'll try it.
And we still have some art to go. Like, he's not done with Immortals yet. all the mortals that are on the Kickstarter are just some blank placeholders, and like we're just as excited to see and share the final mortals as they come out. And so we're hopefully during the Kickstarter we'll just start showing those and hopefully get people excited about those too.
So let me ask this: 1 minute sales pitch for why a person would want Campy Creatures in their collection, in their board game collection.
Yeah, I think you want me to do this one?
I know you know.
Well, one, let's time me here. No, the theme. One, you're a mad scientist who's going to capture mortals for future experiments, and you got to use your army of creatures. I think that in itself just sounds fun and ridiculous. And the vibe of the game is obviously pretty campy, and the artwork being amazing. But I think as a gamer or as a person, like I want to play games that are quick, that I can pick up with friends who might not play games all the time. And this would be one of those games where it's like, again, a gateway style game where like it can be picked up really quick, that people who aren't gamers would enjoy it. But I think even gamers would have a good time enjoying it, because the whole heart of the game is guessing what someone else is going to play. And that changes game to game. So you're more playing your opponent than you're playing the game. The game creates a space for that to happen, basically. And so this whole meta develops. And so the joy of outwitting your opponent in that mist, and maybe they did this last time, but are they going to do this again, and where can I sneak my way into winning? And so I think that's the hope for the fun of the game there.
Definitely. I love the mechanic, because that's something that I enjoyed a lot with the game Raptor. My wife and I bought the game Raptor because we were looking for just a really solid 2-player game.
Yeah.
Love the fact that you can play any number that you have in your hand, but it really matters what you think the other player is going to play, because that's going to determine whether or not you're going to get to move, whether or not you're going to get to heal, whether you're going to be able to shoot a raptor.
Yeah.
And so when I read about what the mechanics were, I got super excited, because especially like we want a 5-player game. We want games that include everybody in the family, and we can sit around and enjoy a night playing game.
Yeah.
Man, I'm really excited about it.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much. Another one, just as a FYI, you might enjoy this too if you've ever played it, but Lord of the Rings, The Confrontation, is a 2-player only game by Rainer Knizia, the champion, but it's this same thing where, it's kind of like Stratego, but way better in the sense that there's these players cards that are interacting with each other, but you then have your hand of cards, and you're the Fellowship. You have weaker cards but different abilities, and the Team Mordor has stronger cards but their abilities are a little weaker, and you're trying to know when to use the cards at the right time, along with the way that the board plays out. And so it was like, for that 2-player game, I just love the tension and feeling that captured, and I was trying to distill that into like, what if there were just battles that were happening that you weren't going in and making each battle happen, but they were just like back to back to back to back, and you're just trying to the thinkiness that can happen. So
that's cool. So tell us a little about what you see the future of Keymaster Games, and what you guys would like to move on to, whether it be in 2017 or 2018.
I think Keymaster Games has a big, bright future.
You make games too, right? You don't.
I was working on some games, and when I met Mattox, and there's several games that both of us have worked on together. There's one, a few that I've made that have not seen the light of day yet, really. When he came up with Control, we basically dropped the hammer, and I was like, this is the first one. We're going to make this game like right now. Like, forget everything we were doing. Like, this is what we're going to make. So the big thing on the horizon is Gen Con. We kind of mentioned that before. We are exhibiting at Gen Con. This will be our first year. We made it into Entrepreneur Alley, and they announced via their newsletter that they are giving us a fellowship. So they are putting us on the end cap, so you should be easy to find us, and upping our booth space. And so we are super excited about that, and that's why we are pushing Campy and releasing it at Gen Con. So even if you're not a Kickstarter backer at this point, you should become a Kickstarter backer, but you will be able to get it, and that will be the first public offering of it. So that'll be the first time we're in at a convention as Keymaster Games, and we're super excited about that. And also, we're pushing to. We've released one game last year. We released Campy Creatures now, and we're hoping to push out another game before the year ends, possibly. So we just want to ramp up the games as we grow. As we, if people like what we're making, we'd love to make more. And we're open to getting games from also other great designers and kind of putting the Keymaster look and feel to them, as well as trying to put our own little stamp on them. And so from here, there's a lot of room to go, and we're working on it. We're learning. We're still just like two dudes making games, learning a lot, meeting new people. We love the connections we're making, like literally every week. And it's just, we're just loving doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I guess from another point
awesome,
too,
yeah.
it'd be nice to do a control expansion. That's like something that people bring up. I would love to do that. So I would love to give some
You're just
headspace to
leaking
that.
stuff now.
I know, right? Yeah. And then if Campy Creatures, if there is like a great following that's built, there's always been this like idea in my mind of Campy Creatures Deluxe, where you're basically able to create the meta that you want to have, and you have like 3 different sets of 0 through 8 creatures, and you're just choosing which 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 you want to play with, kind of like what Sushi Go does, you know. But you know, your king, like the creatures would have different abilities that would totally affect the meta going on there, and so that would be maybe down the road if it all goes well. But that's
really, yeah.
hopeful,
We're super excited about that
thinking.
and hopeful about that.
Yeah.
That'll be really great.
But yeah.
That's cool, man. You guys sound like you have some great plans in the future. And just remember, if you ever need a 6'6" monster, like a sea monster, I'll dress up for Gen Con.
Yeah, totally. Yes.
Just give me a ticket. I'll dress up like them and walk around and make a fool out of myself.
Yes. Special edition.
Yeah. So you guys, thanks so much for coming on and talking with us at One Board Family. We really love the game, and we're really excited about getting to play it and getting around the table. More than anything, games are about the people that we're around the table with. And
yeah,
so true.
I love that the games that you guys are making encourage that interaction. So
thanks
so much.
Well, thank you guys so much for having us. It's been
Thanks
awesome.
for having us.
Thanks.